Attention Niners fans and watch aficionados. Elevate your game with the Breitling Chronomat San Francisco 49ers Team Edition, now at Topper Jewelers. Celebrate the NFL's 104th anniversary with a Swiss-made timepiece that blends sophistication with sporting capability. Introducing the Breitling Chronomat, crafted in honor of the San Francisco 49ers. This 42mm marvel features a striking crimson and white dial that's finished with the iconic red and gold 49ers logo placed prominently at 9 o'clock. Limited to just 104 pieces, this special watch showcases your team spirit with distinctive colors and logos. Powered by Breitling's in-house B01 chronograph movement, it combines precision with a bold design. And with a 70-hour power reserve, 200 meters of water resistance, and a sapphire crystal, it's built for both action and elegance. Catch this exclusive piece at Topper Jewelers, where tradition meets the thrill of the game. But you'll want to hustle, because once these 104 pieces are gone, they're gone forever. Discover this 49ers edition, as well as other iconic Breitling watches, like the legendary Navitimer and Mighty Super Ocean, now at Topper Jewelers. And while supplies last, mention this ad to receive a special gift with your next Breitling order.
Hey, it's Cheryl Swoops and Jordan Robinson from the Queens of the Court podcast, here to talk about staying connected to what you love.
With AT&T 5G and home internet, you can be a sports superfan your way. You could cheer like crazy in any room of your house or your backyard,
Which might startle your neighbors, but they won't judge you.
You could fist pump after watching your team hit a buzzer beater while you're on a train surrounded by strangers.
Who cares how you look? You enjoy that moment.
Or you could let out a triumphant roar when your team makes an incredible trade.
And don't worry if you're out with your coworkers. They know what this trade means to you.
So however you watch, listen, or read about your team,
And no matter how that makes you act,
AT&T 5G and home internet keep you connected at home and on the go.
AT&T, connecting changes everything. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G for you.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers web zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
'49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast. We are part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Al Sacco. He's Brian Renick. Brian, you know what's been on my mind a little bit, and it's funny because I'm thinking about this, and all of a sudden there's like a little bit of stuff happening on the internet with Davante Adams and everything else. I'm going through my head, do the 49ers need to make a trade? Are the 49ers good enough right now, as they're built, to get to the Super Bowl? I don't think so. But I also don't think Davante Adams is the person they should trade for. I think they need D-line help, maybe a running back. They may need, people will say offensive line, but it's very difficult with offensive line because you got to play together. Those aren't really plug and play positions. Kind of works as a unit. So it's tough to bring in another offensive lineman in middle of the year, typically.
Yeah.
But this Davante Adams stuff, I feel like we need to start with this. Did you see the article that Mike Silver wrote?
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. I did not see the article. It is behind a paywall. But I did find the tweet to the article, which does the tweet itself has a quote from the article, or at least something from the article, and it says San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk is underperforming and unhappy. The Raiders' Davante Adams is disgruntled. Perhaps swapping the receivers for each other is the solution. I disagree. I like Mike a lot. And like you said, when Mike puts stuff out, typically, he doesn't do so without there being a little bit of confirmation from somewhere. Granted, that tweet came out yesterday, and the column came out yesterday. But we looked it up, or I looked it up right before we started recording. If the 49ers were to trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Raiders right now, this season, it would be a dead cap hit in 2024 of $23 million, which means that it would cost the 49ers in 2024 cap space $17.275 million. So, we've seen them redo a bunch of contracts right before the season started in order to get a lot of cap space for 2024. And the question was always, what is this cap space for? And, I would imagine some of it is for operating expenses. Some of it is for the possibility of making trades midseason. But I think you and I are both in agreement that the majority of that is probably earmarked to roll over to next year so that when they have to give Brock Purdy, his massive extension, they've got extra cap space that they are rolling over from this year and losing $17.275 million of that to trade the 26-year-old wide receiver that you just gave a 4-year, $120 million extension to 5 weeks into the season does not seem like a prudent move to me. How about you?
Well, that's what's crazy is because you just signed this dude 5 weeks ago. It was 5 weeks ago. And we're already having like rumors or speculation or whatever it is that it's better off to trade him. I mean, come on.
And
I know he's off to a bad start, but that I'm not sure where that's coming from. I don't know if Mike knows something we don't, and he's just kind of throwing something out there. Mike is tied in. Mike is very tied in. Mike's one of those guys when he puts something out there, like I said, it's like, okay, something's going on here. You know what I mean?
There's some validity to it. Yeah.
It's very interesting where he got that from and why he's saying that. I don't think he's pulling that out of thin air. Maybe he has heard rumblings that he's unhappy, but how are we here 5 weeks into the contract? And I don't see, unless you traded Aiyuk for Davante Adams, the trade makes no sense bringing Davante Adams in. What are you going to do with Davante Adams?
None. Right.
Well,
You've already got
over Aiyuk, right? You're not going to bring him in over Aiyuk. You're not going to bring him in over Debo. You're not going to bring him in over Kittle. So I don't really understand what he would come here unless you trade him straight up for Aiyuk, and they're not going to trade him straight up for Aiyuk. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But
it makes zero sense financially, and
it's fun to talk about that stuff, maybe, I guess. But I don't know how that trade would work out otherwise. So,
well, and then the other question I have is, sure, the 49ers trade for Davante Adams, but can Davante Adams play defensive line? Can Davante Adams play linebacker? Can Davante Adams play edge or defensive end? Because that's where the 49ers need help. They don't need help on the offensive side of the ball. They are really, really, really well situated on the offensive side of the ball. You know, you and I, again, were talking right before we went on, and you know, you can't really trade. I mean, you can trade for offensive linemen in the middle of the season, especially when it comes to like if you have an injury or whatever. But if you're just trying to replace like a Colton McKivitz with an upgrade, who is letting go of a right tackle at in the middle of the season,
right?
That's going to be an upgrade for you. Teams aren't getting rid of offensive linemen because offensive linemen are really hard to find right now. Like good offensive linemen. If you want to talk about why offense has been down and why passing offense has been down this season, it's because offensive line play sucks ass in the NFL right now. Like across the board, it's not good. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse as these college offenses, you know, don't really run any type of pro style offense anymore. And so these offensive linemen come into the NFL, and, you know, the highly drafted ones come in and for the most part, you know, transition well. But I mean, you look at like Ike Ekwonu with the Panthers, right? He was a top 5 pick, I believe. Been awful, right? But highly touted coming out. And so, yeah, no one's getting rid of a good offensive lineman or an offensive lineman that would be an upgrade over like a Colton McKivitz. So, you know, when we talk about trade targets for the 49ers, and I do agree with you, I think there are trades that need to be made. First and foremost, you got to look on the defensive line. To me, that's really where this team
100%.
Needs to be active in the trade market. I have a target in mind. And I think this would be a massive get for the 49ers. And
I have two. I'm interested to see if your target's the same as mine.
And I think it might be based on the talking points that you sent over earlier. But for me, I think the perfect candidate for the 49ers to target would be Calais Campbell with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, he was one of them for me too.
Yeah.
39 years old, rental.
Yep.
Last year of his deal, or maybe he's got
still
a 1 year
productive.
Deal with
it was just a 1 year deal, but still productive. I looked it up on Pro Football Reference earlier this week because I saw somebody mention Campbell, or it was Ted Wynn of The Athletic, and I was like 100%. I co-sign on this. This is a great idea. So I looked it up on Pro Football Reference. Campbell's played about 54% of the defensive snaps for the Miami Dolphins. So he's playing about halftime, but even in that halftime over 4 games, he already has 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. So again, is still a productive player at his age, but probably wouldn't take a ton in compensation. And, you gotta think that these Dolphins are probably already looking at the 2024 season and going, this is not our year. Let's shed some salary. Let's get some cap relief. Let's roll some stuff over, because who knows? They might be looking for a quarterback this offseason, because no one knows what's going to happen with Tua.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Miami. Are they going to be in fire sale mode soon? Because they're 1-3. They look horrible. They look horrible even with Tua in there. Are they kind of having some conversations internally saying, Tyreek Hill's 31 years old, so we want to get some draft picks for him. We're not going anywhere this year. Calais Campbell's another guy. If I'm the Niners, I'm looking at two positions. Well, definitely one and maybe two. And I'll stop it. I think safety will be okay, because you figure Hufanga is going to be back eventually. I know we just sprained his ankle, but you figure.
And Malik Mustafa, I think, is
somebody you want to develop.
Yeah,
keep in there, and for sure. And you expect Dre Greenlaw to be back, as much as they need help at linebacker. So I think you're set there. Your corners are fine. Defensive line, huge priority. Huge. You have Bosa. You have Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd has been very much what I talked about him being when they got him. He gets a sack and you're like, dude, it's Leonard Floyd. And then a game and a half goes by, 2 games, and you're thinking to yourself, is Leonard Floyd playing? Like, I haven't noticed that dude. And then he gets a sack and you're like, oh, hey, there's Leonard Floyd. And by the end of the year, he has 7 or 8 sacks, but he's not really a consistent
10 sacks, Al. He's had double-digit sacks the last, I think, 4 seasons.
Whatever. But so he gets 10, whatever it is. But you're like, oh, hey, there he is. But it's not like a Nick Bosa where you're like, oh, he's wrecking the game the whole time.
Right.
So then you look at, then they have Robert Beal. They have guys on the edge. Gross Matos hasn't impressed me a ton. They need more help on the edge for sure. I think they could use another pass rusher, but they really need another defensive tackle. Without Hargrave this season, you have Malik Collins. Jordan Elliott practice limited, so he's not as hurt as we feared he might be. So he'll be back, but then you're going to rely on Clea Davis coming back, Kevin Givens. These are
I'll say Davis's practice window has been opened. This week.
Assume he's going to come back, but these are mostly rotational dudes.
Right.
You may want to go out and see who else is available. Campbell's is a guy who can come in and help. Also, another name that I had in mind was DJ Jones from Denver.
Yes.
He's in the last year of that contract. Would they be willing to part ways with him? He's played here. He knows the 49er system. He's a great run stuffer, which they need badly. Can he come in and help? So those are the 2 names I had, Calais Campbell and DJ Jones. Although the other position I'm a little bit thinking,
Denver's defense has been really good. They might not want to get rid of DJ Jones.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true too. And what are they, 2-2 now? Who knows? Maybe they think they can win some games here.
Do you catch yourself tossing and turning all night and feeling exhausted when it's time to get up? Instead of reaching for that second cup of coffee, you should be tackling the problem at the source, your mattress. But with a Purple mattress, those problems are a thing of the past. Purple's flexible structure rebound with every movement, conforming to the curves of your body with no lag time or sinking stuck sensation like with memory foam. What places Purple a step above your average mattress? The Gel Flex Grid. Their patented material delivers a sleep experience unlike any other, all thanks to its unique column structure. Beneath the concentrated weight of pressure points like shoulders and hips, the flexible structure buckles to create cradling, made-for-you comfort. Simultaneously, beneath broad surfaces such as your back and legs, the columns maintain their integrity, providing total support and alignment. Hello, 40% less pain. And with over 114,000 5-star reviews, you know it's good. Visit Purple.com to find the perfect Purple for you and enter code podcast10 to get 10% off.
This Halloween, ghoul all out with Instacart. Whether you're hunting for the perfect costume, eyeing that giant bag of candy, or casting spells with eerie decor, we've got it all in one place. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Service fees, other fees, and additional terms apply. Instacart, bringing the store to your door this Halloween.
Thumbtack presents the ins and outs of caring for your home. Out. Indecision. Overthinking. Second-guessing every choice you make. In. Plans and guides that make it easy to get home projects done. Out. Beige on beige on beige. Ugh. In. Knowing what to do, when to do it, and who to hire. Start caring for your home with confidence. Download Thumbtack today.
The other position I'm wondering if they're going to address is running back. Now, a lot of that is going to depend on Christian McCaffrey. What do they know? What do they really think? Is he coming back? Is he going to come back late? And even if he doesn't, do they need someone to sort of take the burden off Jordan Mason a little bit? Jordan Mason leads the NFL with 91 carries right now.
Yep.
He's on pace for 387. He's never had anywhere close to that. I don't think he's had 91 carries in his career coming into the season. Well, so he's in uncharted territory.
Let's say 387 carries would also be the most in the NFL in over a decade. DeMarco Murray in 2014 had 390 something for the Cowboys. So yeah, it's unprecedented in the last decade in the NFL to have that many carries.
They can't keep him at that pace. Again, we've just seen it over and over again. Your running backs break down. They get hurt when they carry the ball that much. And if the worst does happen with McCaffrey, and knock on wood, we're not there. I hope we're not there. You go into the playoffs, he's going to have another 400 plus touch season. You would assume, similar to what McCaffrey had last year. Now, what can they do here? Again, I'm thinking Dolphins. And two names I'm thinking, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. And I know they're both injured right now, but if they are healthy in a few weeks, are they names that could come back to the Niners? Because the Dolphins have Achane and Jalen Wright. They really don't, maybe don't need those other two guys. Could the Niners reach out? Even if a trade for Campbell doesn't work out, can you do like a conditional 7th round pick for one of those two guys or something like that, depending on how many snaps they play or whatever it is? Bring those guys back in the fold, and you at least have somebody that you trust that you can mix, spell Mason with, or again, if the worst happens, somebody you trust in the playoffs and moving forward to get some important carries.
Yeah, because, at this point, it's Isaac Guerendo, who after his kickoff return fumble, we don't know how Kyle Shanahan feels about him right now. Kyle Shanahan is famously slow to put rookies on the field. And if he does and they screw up in any way, then it certainly seems like he's hesitant to put them out there again. So that will be interesting. We haven't really seen him much when it comes to taking snaps with the offense. He's had a handful of carries. And then, outside of Guerendo, you've got Patrick Taylor Jr., who, again, not anybody that we've really seen much of. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you've got to limit Mason's touches. I think at this point, if we're being intellectually honest with ourselves, anything that the 49ers get from Christian McCaffrey this season should be viewed as a bonus, because it certainly feels like this is a lost season for him. I think hoping and wishing for a week 10, week 12 return, sure, that's fine, but it's bilateral Achilles tendonitis. I'm just on a running back, right? On a guy that is, Achilles health is paramount to cutting and change of direction and all of that. And so I like I said, I just view Christian McCaffrey as, if the 49ers can get anything out of him this season, that's a bonus. So you got to look at this season and go, Jordan Mason is our guy moving forward. We don't really trust anybody behind him to give carries to. We've got to bring somebody else in. And to bring somebody that has been in the system before, obviously is going to be, at least on paper, lead to probably more success than a random guy off the street or whatever the case may be. So, it's interesting. I wonder if to a certain extent, they're kicking themselves a little bit that they kept Taylor and got rid of Cody Schrader. Because I think they liked Schrader, and I think they liked the way they ran the ball. He just didn't offer the same thing in the passing game that Patrick Taylor did. But again, I felt like they possibly made that decision operating that we are going to have CMC. And so, I don't know. The other problem with both those guys that you mentioned is they're always injured. Always
That's
injured.
That's true.
And so it's hard to, think that you're going to give up assets for a player that you can't even guarantee will likely not miss time between now and the end of the season as well. So it'll be interesting, but I agree with you. I think running back is a position, I guess, on the offense where, they could stand to bring somebody in. Again, not a big splash trade or anything like that, but We just had a comment in the chat that heard a rumor that the Jags are putting Travis Etienne on the trade block. Hey, if that's real, 100%, you got to try and make that trade. That would be a guy that you could bring in that would be a difference maker in the passing game as well. And maybe that's all that he would be. But I mean, that would be quite the upgrade.
If no CMC, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he could use a change of scenery. I think everybody in Jacksonville could probably use a change of scenery from what's going on there. But the reality of the situation is with McCaffrey, I think Richard Sherman was talking about this too. Like once you have these injuries, like
they don't go away.
And it's a real possibility of tearing your Achilles. Right. Look with Dre Greenlaw last year. We saw what happened. He had the same sort of struggles. He ends up tearing it. You said with running backs cutting and everything else, it's a lot of strain on there. And that's a very real possibility. Even if McCaffrey comes back, that he does end up, I don't even want to say it, because if he tears his Achilles, then you're talking next year too, or most of next year anyway.
Right.
So by the time he would come back again, it's terrifying. He's an older running back, but that's where they are right now. And I feel like they do have to, protect themselves from this. Even if it means you're bringing a guy and you're like, hey, we brought him in, Christian's back, we still have Mason, he's not playing. Great.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? Better have more of this than not.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of who they would bring in. But running backs should be easier to come by. A lot of them are a dime a dozen. You can find good backs places. But if they're not going to trust Garendo, and you have to wonder if Kyle's going to now after the fumble, and he's a rookie. He's had a couple times where I thought he's looked okay, but he's looked like he struggled a little bit too. When he's a rookie, that's fine. But other than that, there's not guys that you really feel good about in there. So I think they have to find something there. Other than that, on offense, look, we said about the offensive line, it's really tough to bring anybody in. Do you want to find another tight end? I don't know. I guess you can always maybe have your eyes out for that. But receiver doesn't make any sense to me, even with someone like Davante Adams, unless you are saying, oh my God, we messed up with Aiyuk and you're going to trade him. Because you have Debo. You have Juwan Jennings having a career year. You assume Aiyuk is going to get better. And then you have guys that you want to start getting reps and getting in there and cowing. And Pearsall, Adam Schefter said, even though they're not opening his window this week, he's not far away. He's your first round pick. You do want to get him on the field. You do want to see what you have. You do want to get him reps. So that's five guys right there that you want to get on the field.
And his shoulder injury is good now too. That's the other thing. Yeah.
Right. So you get the five guys that you want to see on the field. I'm not sure. Adams just doesn't make sense to me. I know that.
And I was saying, not only that, but the 49ers aren't the Rams. They don't run 11 personnel, right? Like Juwan Jennings doesn't even see as much time on the field as he probably should, because they don't run 11 personnel. And somebody even asked Kyle Shanahan this week about the possibility of running more 11 personnel. And Kyle Shanahan was basically like, no, like our base personnel is 21. It will continue to be 21. And it's like, but one of your better offensive players this season is on the sideline when you're in 21. And so, it's interesting to be that kind of steadfast in like, no, we're not changing things up. And I understand what 21 personnel allows Kyle Shanahan to do offensively. It forces the defense to be in a base, in base defense, which you can then exploit, with guys like Kyle Juszczyk. But one thing that I think could be interesting, and I wonder if we'll see more of it, is running quote unquote 11 personnel, but in so doing, it's still 21 in that Debo Samuel is your running back. So you've got Aiyuk and Jennings on the outside and Debo in at running back. I mean, they do that. I think it could be interesting and a lot of fun to see 21 personnel with Debo and Mason in the backfield, and then Aiyuk and Jennings on the outside. I think you could run some fun plays out of that. I don't know if they've practiced that. I don't know if that's even something that they would consider doing. Again, obviously, neither one of those players is going to be a lead blocker, but they can definitely be back there together, and then one of them motion out or whatever. Niner Faithful in the chat said they used to do that with Debo and CMC. I could see them doing that with Debo and Mason again, because it allows you to get Jennings on the field, because, like you said, I would imagine if they did, for whatever reason, trade for Davante Adams, I don't think that's even a consideration or on the table. It would have to be Debo or Aiyuk going back to to Las Vegas. I mean, there's no other way to do it, because again, you already can't get one of your better playmakers on the field in Juwan Jennings. Now you're going to add Davante Adams along with the 2 rookies that you like. I mean, as good as Davante Adams is, it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's an interesting and fun thought experiment. But the bigger concern for me, to go back to what we started with, is the report from Mike Silver that Brandon Aiyuk is unhappy. That to me is, again, whether that's true or not. I mean, you see some things that have happened, and you kind of, it would make sense, right? Like, as much as people tried to make it not a big deal, and maybe it's not, but that whole Shorts, situation last week at practice or whatever. Like I said, I've never seen Brandon Aiyuk like that. I've never seen, he has never been a look at me kind of guy. And he's been that, since these negotiations started. And so again, I mean, he's the one that signed the contract. If he didn't want to be here, he didn't have to sign the contract. And it sounds like the 49ers were finally willing to send him to Pittsburgh, but he still signed anyway.
If you're having buyer's remorse after 5 weeks, I mean, this wasn't a 1-year deal or somebody you brought in to say, hey, let's see how OBJ goes this year or something like that. Like, this is somebody you committed to, and it's really a 2 or 3 year deal. They can get out of it after a couple of years, but still, we're talking 5 weeks. We're not talking a year and a half, and you're like, all right, maybe we're going to get out of this contract. 5 weeks. He signed 5 weeks ago. We're talking about he's unhappy, and whether he is or isn't. But that just shows you where we've gotten to in the last 5 weeks. I think the fan base is annoyed. He's not producing. I don't know. You have the Shorts thing happen that I don't think was a big deal at all, but maybe it was a bigger deal than we anticipate, because if Silver's coming out with this, maybe he was just writing conjecture and hey, he seems unhappy to me. But that's a kind of a big thing to say, that he's unhappy, and you come out with that, and that's the headline. And Mike's a very smart guy. Mike knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder if, again, he heard something, and maybe Aiyuk is a little, but if that's the case, that's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying.
And what is he unhappy about? That's the other thing.
I don't understand it either.
You got a $120 million contract. You got 70 some odd $1 million guaranteed. You didn't have to uproot your family. You're from the West Coast. You're from Reno. You're playing for your mom's favorite team. There's so much about his 49ers tenure that you're like, it just makes sense that he stayed here, and you got the contract that you wanted. I just don't, I couldn't tell you what he would be unhappy about. That's the weird part to me.
Unless it's just his production. He doesn't feel like he's been a big enough part of the offense. He wants to be more featured, but the connection's not there right now. We gave the stats last show about the catch percentages and that sort of thing between his targets, and he's got 25 targets and 13 catches. That catch percentage is the worst on the team right now. A little bit over 50%, 52% catch percentage. He was at over 70 last year. So it's not happening connection wise, but it's happened in the past connection wise. So maybe time will fix that. It's not like he signed with a new team and he's like, holy shit, I have no chemistry with this quarterback at all. He's playing with a quarterback he's had chemistry with in the past. You feel like it's going to happen, but his first 4 games production wise have been awful. 4 games, 13 catches, 167 yards for a $30 million receiver. Something that annoys me to no end. And I feel like every time I put something out on social media about Aiyuk, somebody says it like, oh, well, he's getting the other team's best corner. Okay. CeeDee Lamb isn't getting attention. Justin Jefferson isn't getting attention.
Yeah.
These other receivers aren't getting attention. I don't want to hear that stuff. The saving grace for me with Aiyuk is that he is rusty. He is rusty. He wasn't in camp. He doesn't have the connection. I anticipate that in the next 2 or 3 weeks, he's fine. I don't know. I think this is a great matchup for him, and I wonder if the Niners are going to try to get him going. But to say that he's unhappy because of his targets or what, I don't get, because he is getting targeted. It's just a matter of him getting the rapport back with Purdy. So we'll see, man. But that's a problem and something to watch throughout the season.
I just pulled up Pro Football Reference because I was just interested in where the targets are. Juwan Jennings has 27 targets over the first 4 games. Brandon Aiyuk has 25. Deebo Samuel has 24, but Deebo missed a game.
Mm-hmm.
So it does tell you that in the games that Deebo's in, he is getting targeted more than Aiyuk.
Yeah.
But Juwan Jennings, catch percentage 77.8. Deebo 66.7.
Mm-hmm.
George Kittle has been targeted 17 times, has 15 receptions. Way to go, George. 88% catch percentage. Brandon Aiyuk is at 52%. That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's
just not happening.
The problem that has to change. Because if you want more targets, you got to prove to your quarterback and your play caller that you're going to pull those targets in. So, they've got 3 really good wide receivers, and they are all bunched together in terms of opportunity. Not to mention one of the better tight ends in the NFL. So,
right.
Again, if he expected to outpace everybody else in targets by a good amount, that was his fault for expecting that, because it's never been the case. Right.
Well, and that's where I think with the contract too, if you were going to pay him that, eventually he does have to be more of a focal point. And I didn't think that was going to be this year because they do have so many mouths to feed.
Right.
But moving forward, I did expect him to have more production.
Sure.
I did expect to see, instead of a 75 catch season, a 90 catch season or a 95 catch season.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a lot of yards last year, but last year was really the only season that he had. Well, what was his career high other than last year? 1,078. So he had over 1,300 last year, but that was the only season he's done that. This year, I did expect a lot of mouths to feed. I didn't think he's going to have huge numbers, but next year I did. And right now it's all a little bit scary.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com. And use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet, and the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned, and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout experience as business powerhouses like Aloe, Allbirds, and Skims. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
This is the matchup to get him going, Brian, against the Cardinals, who have just an atrocious defense. Absolutely atrocious. They're giving up 26.5 points per game this year. That's the 5th worst. 68.8% in red zone percentage. That's in the bottom 10. 45.5% third down conversions. That's in the bottom of the league. 45% scoring against them. That's in the bottom of the league. 5.8 yards per play. That's the 5th worst. 586 rushing yards, also the 5th worst. They've given up 8 rushing touchdowns this year. That's tied for the most in the league. And then their net yards against 7.4. The Niners absolutely owned them last year in terms of scoring points. They scored 80 points in the 2 games against them last year. And Christian McCaffrey had 7 total touchdowns in 2 games.
Yeah.
I had to look that up like 4 times. Like, really? Did he really have 7 total touchdowns? He did. He had 4 in the first game and 3 in the last one. Wow. So if BA is going to have a breakout week, if you do daily fantasy or whatever, and I do think it's a good week to play him, I see him having a bigger game. If he doesn't, then maybe again, because Mark Willard was talking about it at 95.7 the game. Like the ramp up period's over. You've had 4 or 5 weeks now. You should be getting going a little bit. I'm not asking you to have 15 catches, but the 3 catches for 40 yards, you got to get him more involved now. Whether that's Kyle Shanahan dialing some stuff up for him early or whatever the case may be. You want to see him. I want to see him have like a 6-catch, 80-yard type game. Be more involved. Be more of a focal point in the offense, especially against a defense that's this bad.
Yeah, my biggest concern about this being a Brandon Aiyuk breakout game is the stats that you gave up or that you gave us about the Cardinals run defense. To me, Kyle Shanahan looks at that and just absolutely licks his chops and goes, I'm gonna run this ball 40 times. But I also know that my biggest concern for this game is that the Cardinals are looking at the same thing and going, we're going to do the same thing. And eventually, if both teams are, trying to get 30 to 40 carries, this game's going to be like 2 hours long. You know what I mean? Where like all of a sudden you're going to look up and it's going to be like 7-6 or 7-3 midway through the second quarter. And it's only been, 45 minutes of like real time, not game time. And, like I said earlier this week, I think the Cardinals' best game plan would be to try and run the ball as often as possible and keep the 49ers offense off the field. But at the same time, if that is happening and the Cardinals are finding success, the 49ers are going to realize like, well, we can't just run the ball as well because we're going to run out of possessions and run out of time to beat this team. So you might have to start dialing up some more pass plays, some deep pass plays, at which point maybe Brandon Aiyuk does get more involved. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the game script looks like and what ends up happening in terms of, how successful is the Cardinals offense in running the ball and all that. But yeah, at a certain point, it's shit or get off the pot for Brandon Aiyuk. And, I have faith in his talent that eventually he's going to have a breakout. I just hope it's sooner rather than later so that we can just kind of start putting this to rest a little bit.
You mentioned the Cardinals running game. Second game last year, 30 carries, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Niners.
Yep.
And they started to expose some things that other teams hit on the rest of the season in terms of running on the Niners, being able to run on the Niners. That scares me a lot this game. I can see like James Conner having 25 carries in this game, them just feeding him the ball. I think Kyler is going to run. Last week against the Patriots, I know everything looked great and we're like, all right, we got pressure, and the Patriots have the worst offensive line like ever. You just saw today Dave Andrews is out for the year, so he wasn't healthy.
Yikes.
In that game either. So the Patriots are not anything that you can look at and say, yeah, all right, this is what's going to happen moving forward. It's just not. Having said that, I have no idea what to make of the Cardinals at all. I don't know if they're kind of good. I don't know if they suck. I don't know if they're scrappy. I don't have any idea what to make of them. They gave Detroit all they can handle. They gave the Bills all they can handle. Then they haven't looked
blown
good.
Out by the Commanders.
Yeah, right. So they didn't look good against the Commanders. And maybe the Commanders are just throwing people off right now with the way that offense is going and everything else, but they didn't score on them either. So I don't have any idea what to make of the Cardinals.
And the Commanders have a terrible defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dan Quinn is sort of doing a good patchwork job there, but yeah, they're a team that you could score on. Absolutely. So Who knows what's going on with the Cardinals right now? I have no idea, but it's a division game. So you can throw a lot of things out of the window too, because these teams know each other so well. And I think we're going to find out a lot about the Niners defense. And if the trades we talked about earlier in the show would need to happen like sooner than later, because the Cardinals, I think, can exploit the Niners weakness. Will they do it? Remains to be seen. Can the Niners come up with some stuff? Niners have talent, can they stop the run? We're going to find out, but I can see them absolutely pounding the ball. And this is going to be the first real test for the Niners. Okay. Can they stop it? Because then you're going to play Seattle. Now, Seattle's defense looked terrible on Monday night. They're missing 5 starters, including their entire defensive line. They should be back by the time they play the Niners. And you saw what their offense did. Seattle's offense looks really good. Geno Smith is playing great. Metcalf is playing great. Kenneth Walker ran all over the place.
Yeah, Ryan Grubb seems to be a good hire.
Yeah, so
offensive play caller.
They're going to get tested against division rivals the next 2 weeks, and it starts this week against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I have to wonder if Evan Anderson will be elevated again from the practice squad. He's really the only player that the Niners have on this defense that is like, a guy you would look at as like that traditional kind of run stopper, that gap filler in the middle. Just a big body. I think he's like 6'3", 326 or something like that. But they have to go into this game dedicated to stopping the run. Make the Cardinals prove that their passing offense can beat you. Because while Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, and Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he is tied for most receiving touchdowns in the NFL right now. I think he has 4. But you got to rely on your secondary to be able to make some stops, and you just got to full out commit to stopping the run until they either prove that they can beat you with the pass, and then you got to make some adjustments. But to me, that's really got to be the game plan on defense. And then on offense, like you said, I don't think you should be concerned. The biggest concern for me is still on the defensive side of the ball, and it's the fact that Fred Warner, still don't know if Fred is going to play or not with his ankle injury. I don't know what this team does if Fred Warner can't play. Obviously they were able to weather it last week because he didn't play the entire second half, but again, they weren't actually playing
you were playing a college team.
Yeah. So you can't really take much from that. The 49ers did sign Jalen Graham, who they drafted 2 years ago in the 7th round out of Purdue. It was actually former GM Scott McCloughan's favorite draft pick of the 49ers, that draft. They had let him go at final cuts, and he was picked up by Adam Peters and put on the Commanders practice squad. They signed him, which means that he goes to the active roster, because you can't sign a player off of somebody else's practice squad just to put him on your own. So he signed a 1-year deal. So you have to think that is both a testament to the injury to Curtis Robinson, which we know they've lost for the season, but also just the real shitty play of Devondre Campbell and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. With D Winters banged up, you've been putting Campbell and DFF out there, and it's not working. So
not happening.
It'll be interesting to see if he sees time this week at linebacker. Jalen Graham, speaking of who I'm talking about.
Well, they got to try something else. They probably have to
try something. You got to do something different. And then obviously, George Kittle has a rib issue.
Barrow said on Tim Kawakami's podcast, he's fairly certain that Kittle and Warner are going to play.
Play?
Yeah, it looks like they are going to. Yes. So it looks like they're going to fight through their injuries and they're going to be on the field, which is huge for this team. Because without Fred Warner, I don't know where they'd be right now without Fred Warner.
Right. Defensive player of the year through the first.
Absolutely is. Yeah. Absolutely. Terrifying. I mean, they're 2-2 with him playing out of his mind. So if he's not there, my God, I can't even think about it. But I don't know, man. Like I think this game is going to be a test for sure. Do I think the Niners get past that test? I do. I'm not afraid of the Cardinals. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It'll probably be a game that could scare you a couple of times. I think the Niners are going to pass this test, and then we'll talk about short week in Seattle. Then it gets a little bit scarier there. But
yeah, man,
score for this game, I'll say like 30-24, 30-27. I think it's going to be close. The line the last time I saw it was 7.5. And I was listening to a show and they said Vegas loves the Niners at 7.5. So they absolutely love the Niners to win if they love the Niners at that high of a spread. But I think the Niners are going to score, but I think the Cardinals are too. This Niners defense, people still sort of think, oh, Niners defense, they're going to be okay. Or they're going to get stops, or they're going to beat this team. I just don't feel like it's the same defense anymore, especially with the injuries on the defensive line. Yeah. And last week I keep saying it was a Fugazi game. It was totally nothing you could. It was fake. There's nothing you could tell from anything that happened there. Can't take anything away from it. We'll find out more this week. So my estimation, it will be a closer game, but I'm still thinking the Niners come out ahead here.
Yeah, I do think that the Cardinals are going to be able to run on the 49ers, which means it's going to limit the number of possessions that the 49ers get. So I don't think they get to 30 this week. And so I'm going to say that the 49ers do still pull out a victory. But it is people are going to be upset at the end of this game because it's going to be closer than I think people probably think that it should be. So I'm going to say 27-24. The 49ers pull out the victory. I'm not calling a Jake Moody game winner. I'm just saying that they win by 3. And like I said, part of the reason why they don't get to 30 is just because I think they do get limited in their possessions, because I do think that the Cardinals will win the time of possession just with their running game. And so I still think, like I said, I think the 49ers just have too much talent on the offensive side of the ball to really be concerned that the Cardinals defense can do anything to stop them. I just don't think, like I said, that they're going to have as many opportunities to score touchdowns as you would against a team that doesn't have the type of run game that the Cardinals can put out there. So 27-24, 49ers win. But the best outcome for this game would be for Kyle Shanahan to come out on Monday and tell us no injuries. That's more what I'm hoping for, because
he's done that before, and then
I'm tired. Yeah.
2 days later.
But
so.
Sure. The best thing would be for Kyle Shanahan to come out on Monday and say no injuries, and for that to be the actual truth. How about
actually tell the truth. But look, the Niners, we're going to start a stretch. We're going to find things out. We're going to find out where they are in the division the next couple of weeks. We're going to find out. Cowboys may suck, but it's still a big game. So we're going to find out where they are a little bit in the NFC. And we're going to find out where they are in the league in terms of that Chiefs game, which is a lot bigger game for the 49ers than it is for the Chiefs.
100%.
Chiefs are 4-0, even though the Chiefs don't look right on offense. They're still 4-0, and the Niners have to prove that they can beat them. That is a gigantic game, but they got to get through the next 3 weeks first. And hopefully, I mean, I hope 5-2, but at worst, if they go into that Chiefs game any worse than 4-3,
yeah, it's, that the 49ers go into that Chiefs game the same way that the Cowboys go into that 49ers game, right? All the pressure is on the 49ers against the Chiefs. All the pressure is on the Cowboys against the 49ers. They have to prove that they can beat that team. I don't know what to think about the Cowboys. They're really difficult to figure out right now, but that Chiefs team, again, that offense is not very good right now. But the defense is really, really good. And we know that Steve Spagnuolo knows how to stop Kyle Shanahan and his offense. So it'll be interesting, but you got to get through the Cardinals and the Seahawks first. But before you can even get through the Seahawks, you got to get through the Cardinals. And I think that they will, but we will break that game down the next time we talk to you guys.
For Brian, I'm Al. Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Niners on 3. 1, 2, 3.
.2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.